Welcome to this live broadcast from the World Economic Forum's annual meeting here in Davos. It's day 2 and I have with me a man who rarely ever speaks to the media, Israel Markov, the chairman of Sun Pharmaceuticals, also a veteran of the generics industry across the world. Thank you very much, sir, for your time today. I'd like to start by asking you how you diagnose the various ills that the generics industry faces today in the world, especially as we come off the fairly catastrophic news that Teva has put out with regards to job cuts, plant shutdowns, and what that means for the generics industry across the world.
Well, first of all, I think we have to remember that the generic industry is an important and significant component of the healthcare industry.
Sure.
And therefore, it's a vital part of the healthcare industry, and it's going to stay there for forever. What's happened to Teva happens to Teva, it's not the entire industry. Mm-hmm. There are pressures in the market right now, like in many other business cycles, you have sometimes down, sometimes up, but this is a business cycles. You have pressures, especially in the US market, yes. Pressures on prices, which comes from various sources. Part of them is regulation. Part of them is the market. The generic market is right now growing at a slower pace, and so on and so forth. And also the consolidation of the buyers mm-hmm. and the payers. So there is a lot of actions there, and I'm sure that eventually, I don't know when it's going to end, but it doesn't look to me like a very long business cycle. But I'm sure that the industry will come out of it in a stronger position.
I have two questions related to the response that you've just given me. One is that if we see more negative news emanate from Teva, and I understand Teva is Teva, it may have its own internal issues. Do you read that as maybe more space for Indian companies then to try and take up some of the market share that Teva has held globally? Or do you see that as an opportunity for other companies to be able to make more place in the generic business worldwide? Or do you see that as something that will spook generic companies? So will that be an all-out negative impact on the industry? Or do you see others being able to take advantage of it?
I don't think it's an all-out negative impact on the industry. I think it's a negative impact on Teva.
Only Teva. Okay.
Teva is trying to become more efficient company, etc., etc. This is sure. What they declare. But the industry is growing, and the Indian industry is also growing. I don't see newcomers to the generic industry. It's not simple. It's quite a challenge to become a new entry. So I don't see many new entry. I see because of the pressure. A possible consolidation process.
Okay.
And I see that the Indian companies, I think, will take a larger share, not only in the U.S., but also in other markets. The U.S. is not the only market.
Of course not, yes. When you say consolidation, do you also mean, amongst emerging market players, Indian players, or do you largely mean the kind of consolidation we've seen happen in pharmaceuticals in the West?
No, it's also emerging markets and the West. M&A is M&A, and I'm not limiting it. Just West side or emerging side. It's not.
Okay, and you see India playing a role in that consolidation?
India is playing all the time a role in the consolidation. If you see they buy outside of India, they buy companies. Right now, when you have the downturn of the business cycle, it's first of all it's open new opportunities to companies who want to do the M&A, and each company has its own strategy. So you can't generalize in this
fair
respect.
Enough. You said that you didn't expect this cycle, and you used the word cycle a couple of times. You did not expect this downturn in pricing cycle to last very long. Can you give us a little bit more insight on how you read what are the factors that will help return us to better pricing in markets like the US, therefore, help impact, companies like Sun more beneficially?
This currently there is a pressure on prices in the generic business. But you have to remember, as I told you, that the generic business is a very important part of the healthcare industry. And there is a limit for price pressure. Because when you exercise more price pressure, you have supply problems. And when you have a supply problems, the healthcare industry is suffering, you know. So I see that this is a temporary a cycle, you know. Cycle, you know, prices.
So a year or two?
Prices, I can't tell you the.
Is there any way for investors to try and understand, for those in the industry, stakeholders to try and understand, is this going to be a 2, 3, 4, 5 year cycle or a couple of years more?
First of all, I can't tell you when. I can't tell you when, but I see it as a cycle, and I don't see it as a long-term cycle.
Okay. The other issue that's emanated out of the US, especially for Indian pharmaceutical companies, has been the regulatory issues. You've seen a fair share of that at Sun. Many other Indian companies have also faced that. What's your view on how you see some of these things resolving themselves? Do you expect there to be continued FDA-type pressure on Indian companies and therefore a continued impact on their profitability as more plants go in for import alerts?
I think that what the industry, the Indian industry is doing, it's really upgrading their operation, you know, as a response to requests from the FDA and tightened regulations of an inspection of the FDA. And basically, I think it's a positive process. It's a positive process because it ensures. Yes, it's a pressure, but you know, at the end of it, it's a positive pressure because at the end of it, we will produce, the industry will produce better products, more competitive products, and so on.
Notwithstanding the chopper noise, we've seen several plants, you know, and I'm not talking about a particular company, but we've seen several plants sort of come in for the similar kind of scrutiny time and again. So if Indian industry was actually upgrading, standards if what we were doing is upgrading. Yes. Do you see that actually happening? Because we still continue to, on a weekly, monthly basis, hear about plants coming in for enhanced scrutiny.
Look, I cannot talk about the industry. I can talk about Sun.
Okay.
And in Sun, every day we are upgrading our operation.
Okay. But you still have, a halal inspection to happen in February?
The halal inspection,
yeah,
I don't know when.
Your Karkhadi plant is still under import alert.
But we have done all the remediation in halal and we are just waiting for the FDA inspection.
Yes, and your Karkhadi plant is still under import alert, right?
Yeah, so what?
When will that get fixed? That's what I'm trying to say. If it is an upgradation, then these things should get done.
Look,
no,
it's not. First of all, I cannot talk when the FDA will clear things. You know, that's not something.
I don't think even the FDA puts out that kind of information.
No, I don't know. And I think this is not the only plant. We have Sun is a global company. We have plant in India. We have plant we have plant in the US. We have plant in Europe. You don't hear about the plants which have no problems, You just hear about a few plants that have problems.
So I also wanted to talk to you about, the integration with Ranbaxy and how you see that, finally coming to, I think, finishing all of the various pain points. Do you think you'll are over all of that? Because I think it was much tougher than you all had anticipated to begin with, right?
First of all, I think that we are about at the end of the process.
Okay.
It's not the thing. I think that we have achieved all what we wanted in terms of synergies, what we declared that we want to achieve. I think that we're achieving all of these synergies. And basically, when we look backwards, it was a successful integration. Every integration, especially of large size, of large size acquisition, is always a challenge, for every company. And we met this challenge quite well.
So it's been a difficult last year or two for Sun Pharmaceuticals from a profitability point of view, from a stock market, valuation point of view.
That's true.
We've seen share prices decline dramatically from their all-time highs.
Yes.
Do you expect that FY 18-19 will be a better year? And if yes, can you give us some sense or some idea of how much better it will be for your various stakeholders and investors?
For Sun or for the industry?
For Sun.
No, for Sun, first of all, I don't give a guidance,
I'm not okay.
But, I'm an optimistic guy, so I see everything, with real colors, real colors, and I think, and I'm quite optimistic. Sun is doing a lot, in investing in specialty products, and we have quite a significant activities around developing and acquiring specialty products. And I believe that in 2020, a significant part of our business will be around specialty products.
How much would that be?
That's I'm not going to tell you, but that's going to be significant. And this is what Sun is doing. Sun is looking at the future. Sun is trying to meet all the challenges of the future. And if I can say, somebody who comes from Israel, who has seen a number of companies in his life, Sun is a great company.
Well, I'm not disputing that at this point in time. Just asking whether you think that the most difficult part of the last few years now is behind you, and whether you think from here onwards things will be on an improvement.
I hope that this is the case.
You hope that that is the case. That things from FY, financial year 18-19 will be a marked improvement over the last couple of years.
We'll give you a guidance. We'll give you specific guidance.
I'm not asking for a number. I'm asking for a qualitative view on whether it will be a better year.
I don't want to make a comment of this.
And you think that this pursuit of specialty products will continue both in an organic and inorganic fashion?
Yes. Both organic and inorganic. We're spending a lot on R&D. We expanded our R&D, but we already have acquired a few products, and we are going to acquire more when the opportunity is there.
Okay, let me come down to the last question I wanted to ask you. Interestingly, this year, and this is the first time I'm seeing this happen in Davos, over the last 10-12 years that I've covered the World Economic Forum's annual meeting, as I hear world leaders here and different business leaders from different countries, the conversation around globalization seems to be getting narrower and narrower. More and more people are talking about how to protect local industry from the forces of, let's say, the scale in China or otherwise. How do you see that pan out in pharmaceuticals? Do you believe that, we're dumping all the goods of globalization now to look back and try and see how to support local industry?
I don't think. I think that there is some negative vibe against globalization right now. But you see, you can't go back, with the transparency that the digital industry gave us, that everybody knows everything, Yeah, everything is global. And I don't see that the pharmaceutical business is going to return to be local, That's not going to happen. I don't think so. I think it's going global and will increase the globalization.
The one thing that's happened locally, though, is all the price controls that have come in, on a variety of large number of drugs, and then we've also had medical equipment.
But this is local issues.
No, local issue. I'm talking about entirely a local issue. You see a continuation of those policies as being very harmful to the industry?
I must tell you that I have not been elected or consulted by the government, to help them to design this, so I cannot comment on it.
Mr. Markov, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
I suspect you got the better of me today. I was not able to get any guidance from you at all on what next year will be like. But we'll take it, we'll end with the fact that he said that this coming financial year will be a substantial improvement.
I keep you interested, so we'll wait for our answers.
Thank you, and have a good trip.
Thank you very much.